Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the amazing Joshua Millican. Josh, how you doing today, man?
I'm great. How are you, Ken?
Dude, I am doing so much better now. It's so nice to have you here, have you back here on the show again. For those of you that missed it, I do have his My First Horror Movie episode down in the description, so make sure you go back and check that out as well. But that's not why we're here today, Josh. Today we're here to talk about Teleportasm. Now, for the people that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, I think most people who knew me before your show knew me as the editor-in-chief of Dread Central. Dread Central is a great horror website, and I was lucky to work there for a number of years and climb the ladder. Since then, I've been shifting into writing books. Teleportasm will be my third novel, and I've also published a novelization and a collection of interviews. So, trying to go from the journalist life to the writer's life. And in the meantime, just having a great time watching my son grow up.
Yeah, man, that's legit. And we talked about, teleportasm. Obviously, we're gonna get way deep into that, but all the links are down in the description, so you can do the pre-order as well as Josh's other links for social media and his other novels as well. So, how long have you been writing for?
I think all my life, I started actually journaling, in at least high school, probably not junior high, but by high school, I'm pretty sure I was one of those kids with a composition book, just writing his thoughts during class when I should have been paying attention, etc. And then, I was a creative writing major in college. I studied literature and writing. So, I felt like I became a very good reader and writer, and after college, I worked hard to get into the online journalism game, and it's been nice re-immersing myself on the creative end.
Right. And we talk about how, horror goes into all the different avenues that come out of horror. You got video games, movies, books, graphic novels, a little bit of everything. And Teleportasm, it's going to be on paperback, 176 pages. You're going to have it on ebook. And like I said, all those links are down in the description. But a little bit about this. Four friends unearth a unique VHS tape that, when viewed, causes short distance teleportation with euphoric after effects, inadvertently launching a perilous trend. And now, obviously, you're going to want to do that once. You're going to want to do it again and again. As copies of the original tape are made, the results become less predictable and ultimately gruesome due to analog generational decay. Can't really adjust the tracking on a haunted tape. And despite the danger, some will risk everything for that one more trip. And I think we've all been there chasing the dragon, whether it's drug use, which I do not condone. Everybody knows that. If you're going to do it, please do it responsibly. Or horror movies. You get that big scare and then you're chasing that dragon, trying to find that big scare again. So, what was your big inspiration for Teleportasm?
I think I saw, I'm a big fan of conspiracy theories and stuff like that. And I saw this really obscure video about a phenomenon called spontaneous teleportation. And you can think of it as, spontaneous combustion. You burst into flames. What's spontaneous teleportation? Well, you just disappear from where you are and you end up somewhere else. And there are a couple cases, people point to when they talk to this. One is from hundreds of years ago. There's this Spanish soldier in the Philippines who somehow ended up in Mexico. And, that's back when, ships would take 14 months. And anyway, the other interesting story I stumbled across was this patient in a hospital in South Africa. And the nurse turned around to like fill a syringe to give him a shot. And when she turned around, he was gone. And then when they found him, he was in like a maintenance crawl space that he couldn't even have gotten to, that no one could get to without unlocking several doors, and no one knows how he got there. And it was just like a case of spontaneous teleportation. So, I thought about that. And, as on when we were discussing my first horror movie, we talked about The Fly. So I think I've always thought of teleportation horror. It's an extremely a small niche avenue of horror, but there's just something really terrifying about it. And I think when people think about teleportation horror, the first thing that comes to mind is probably the Philadelphia experiment and the idea of, people stuck in walls. I mean, there's something about that that's just so nuts that, it was just a great jumping off point. And the thing that I like, that I added to the, small burgeoning universe is I came up with the idea not even really sure exactly how or where, but came up with the idea that teleportation feels really good, and I feel like that's something pretty original. Just imagine like all those Star Trek episodes of right after going in the transport, everyone on the way team's like, oh shit, that felt amazing, So I like that I added that aspect to it.
Then you kind of get that Spaceballs thing where it's like, I'll teleport. It's right to the next room. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like maybe that's why
right,
they want to do that because it feels so good. So,
right.
um, obviously, I want to keep this as spoiler free as we can because
Well, we can
this
tease
does come out
though. We
huh?
can do teasers. I like teasing.
Absolutely, absolutely. It does come out June 25th, guys. And like I said, I got all the pre-order links down in the description. So, we talk about these four friends that unearthed the tape. Now, is this something that how can I say this without we've talked about
Based on
how
real life?
yeah, in one of the taglines it talks about gory body horror. Can you talk about that a little bit?
The gory body horror?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. Like I said, I think that when you think about when I told people, I'm writing this horror book about teleportation, everyone thinks of the Philadelphia experiment and how crazy that you're stuck in a wall, you're in pain, you're in writhing. So just using that as my jumping off point, the book kind of like starts at, people stuck in walls. And from there, I just tried to explore other potential dangerous avenues. Again, we'll tease here, but people go from being stuck in walls to being stuck in organic matter to being stuck in other people to being stuck in potentially limbo dimensions. So, there are a lot of places to get stuck when you're dealing with technology as fragile and uncertain as teleportation. Oh, but I want to mention
And
too, this
yeah,
is technically a sci-fi, I guess, but the science is so minimal. You don't have to, I don't hit you over the head with science. I'm not trying to like weigh you down. Basically it kicks off talking about the Philadelphia experiment and you can buy in right there. And if you want a little bit of science, I added a teeny little bit of science all the way at the end. You can get kind of like some wild ideas on how this might actually occur.
do we get any type of origin? And again, if this is spoiler, please don't say. Do we get any type of origin to the VHS tape and how it came to be?
You get a lot of good ideas. One of the fun things about teleportasm is it poses a lot of theories, and the truth is in there. In all these theories being posed. And I think when you get to the end, you find out not only the origins of the story, so to speak, the wellspring, if not for this VHS tape, then for one of its predecessors. And you find out that there is a puppet master. One of the things about teleportasm that a lot of people are already talking about is that yes, there is this through story with four friends, but there are also a lot of chapters that might at first seem like standalone chapters. Other people, other groups who come across this tape or a copy of it. But it's not an anthology, it's a pseudo anthology. You can't read it out of order. And all the chapters are informed and inform the chapters before and after them. So, it gave me a lot of fun opportunities to really throw everything against the wall. And what didn't work, I kind of like just brushed to the side. And what did work, I kind of stuck with and elaborated on.
Okay. And how long were you working on Teleportasm?
It's a funny story. Like, normally I'm a pretty prolific writer, and I don't feel like writing takes a long time for me. But Teleportasm took me the best part of a year, and it's because I worked really closely with Alan Listufka, who's the founder of Shortwave. Teleportasm is part 3 of the Killer VHS franchise, and each installment is a new author, but there's an overarching tone that Alan really wanted to maintain. So, the first draft I turned into him of Teleportasm, it was really glum, and it just didn't have the same vibe as Melonhead Mayhem and Candy Cane Kills, which were both incredibly successful. You start a franchise, people like the franchise, they're going to get the third and the fourth and the fifth based on what they already expect. So he was totally right, and he was totally legit. And so we worked together to really, my goal was to make Teleportasm exactly what Alan wanted it to be. And so we kind of went back to the drawing board. We kept what worked, and we added a ton of new stuff. So yeah, it took a lot longer than my other books. I think my other books have all been written in a space of about 3 months. This one took the best part of a year, but it's because it was much more of a collaborative exercise this time, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Teleportasm couldn't have existed in a vacuum, and if it wasn't for the fact that I had incredible input, especially from Alan, it wouldn't have turned out this way. And also, we had some incredible editors, beta readers, even sensitivity readers. There's nothing wrong with that, because I had things pointed out to me that I didn't even realize. And, with the input of, when I just opened myself up to accepting all the input, not letting it hurt my feelings on a personal level, just trying to take every bit of advice as something that would ultimately just improve my book. I just had no ego about it, and I just did the work, and I couldn't be happier.
Sure. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with sensitivity reading and stuff like that. It really does help
No,
to make you a better writer and a better person
absolutely.
too. Like, that's how we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Now I did want to ask, you talk about how this is part 3 in, a series. How did you get connected with the project?
It's a fun story. Brian McCauley, who wrote Candy King Kills, we were both members of the Los Angeles chapter of the Horror Writers Association. So we met a couple years ago, back when we had both just released our first novels. And so we're at a meeting. We're both kind of like the new guys. So we're talking, and I'm like, oh, what are you working on next? And he's all, Killer VHS series, and I'm like, I've heard of that, because I had heard about it. And, I wanted to get in on it. So, he's like, well, yeah, drop Alan an email. So I didn't even really have, it wasn't written. I just kind of had a nebulous idea. Like I said, I think I had just watched this thing on YouTube about spontaneous teleportation, and that was the newest scary thing that I was kind of like replaying in my head. So, I took the concept of killer VHS and made it kind of literal. Instead of like a found footage or an exposition angle, I wanted the tape itself to be cursed, like The Ring, except it's not really cursed because there's no ghost involved. But you know what I'm saying. I wanted the villain to be the cassette, or at least represented by the cassette. So I pitched Alan, and the way I pitched it was Hellraiser by way of the Philadelphia experiment. Again, the Philadelphia experiment has to be the jumping off point. And just the VHS tape was something that would open portals. You put it in, and you like pop out of reality for a second. And I drifted much more into the opening portals aspect of it, and the potential world beyond. And I had drifted away from some of the more fun aspects of it, of, just finding this tape and like, what the hell would people do with it? So again, thanks to Alan for steering me back to the right tone and the direction for the Killer VHS franchise. But yeah, like you mentioned, how did it happen? It happened because I was friends with Brian McCauley. He told me to connect with Alan, and I'm so glad I did, because at the time of this recording, the next 3 VHS books have all already been announced. So, this series is now a hot property, and I'm not sure that cold calling or cold emailing Alan would have gotten me through today. So I'm lucky I got through to him, more than a year ago.
See, and what I love about this is, each one of you is writing your own story, but that connection, and you talk about how when you are going to do this and how you get his approval for everything, but at the same time, the way the world works and how spontaneous teleportation is something that's on your mind, and then this opportunity arises, like butterfly effect, man. If you hadn't,
it really
gone down
is
that rabbit hole on YouTube, would you have written this book?
Probably not.
And it's amazing to me when you hear, like, people use the word fate all the time, or divine intervention, or whatever you want to call it. But when you get to actually hear about it happening, what are the odds that you would go down this rabbit hole only to very soon after that get the opportunity to write something that was completely inspired by that?
You're right. And that's one of the beautiful things about this entire project is, I was inspired with a creepy idea, and then I was inspired to fit into a pre-existing series. And then as Alan and I started working close together, I was inspired to, meet his expectations. So I was inspired all the way through. And you're absolutely right. It's very serendipitous the way everything lined up. If I had missed one meeting and never met, Brian, or if, a million things could have happened, but it's great when things work out and line up. And I'm really, riding a buzz right now. Early reviews of Teleportasm have been great, and I can't wait for the masses to catch the buzz.
And I can't wait either. And like I said, the best way for you guys to do that is by clicking the links down in the description below. So that way you can become, like I said, not only so you can pre-order the book, but you can follow Josh on social media, become a part of that family as well. Now, before I let you go, because like I said, I'm very excited for people to get into this, to, you know, sink their claws into it. But we know that, like you said, the next 3 are already done. You know, this is going to be, as of right now, as of time of filming, we're going to have at least 6 different books in this, you know, chapter of a killer videotape. But is there anything coming down the pipeline for you as well after Teleportasm that you've been working on?
Yeah, I've got a couple projects, and thanks for asking me, because if there's anyone out there listening who is affiliated with a publisher, or if there are any agents out there looking to take on new clients, I basically have 2 manuscripts holstered and ready to go. I have basically the first draft of Teleportasm is so different that it's basically its own standalone right now. And I'd like to find a home for that. There would be a kind of a spiritual connection between this manuscript and Teleportasm, but they would basically be complete standalones. So I think that would be worth releasing. Also, a few years ago, I embarked on a very ambitious project, which was writing the biography of Richard Elfman, who is Danny Elfman's big brother, founder of the Mystic Knights of the Oingo Boingo, and writer-director of Forbidden Zone. What I've decided to do with my hours and hours and hundreds of thousands of words of transcripts is, I think, instead of a biography, which I've just been wrestling with for so long because he's, such an interesting guy, he's still doing great things. I can't write the definitive book about Richard Elfman while he's still being a very active, popular guy on the scene. So I'm kind of, just following him and journaling everything he does from here on out. But what I'd like to do is, long story. The second manuscript is basically, I envision taking from my wellspring of notes and writing what do they call it? A creative nonfiction about Richard and Danny as brothers being part of this art revolution and then kind of going their separate ways. And I think people will really like that because it's a fascinating story. It'll still, people know very little about the Mystic Knights of the Oingo Boingo and Forbidden Zone. And Danny Elfman, even though he might be the most famous modern composer alive, he's still very enigmatic himself. And it's not Danny's story, it's Richard's story, but it'll still give a lot of insight into 2 men who are both very enigmatic. So I'm working on those right now. I got a working title, Mystic Knights in the 6th Dimension. So if, a horror, sci-fi, transgressive manuscript sounds good to anyone, or a creative nonfiction account of the glory days of Richard and Danny Elfman, well, please do get in touch with me and let's make something happen. Otherwise, I've got a few other ideas popping around my head and I just love writing.
Well, and like I said, guys, the best way to get a hold of him for that, because you're going to want, and like I said, Richard's wife, Anastasia, is amazing.
Oh,
yeah, she's been on the
they're
channel
amazing.
before. They are just the sweetest, kindest people, man. So
hell yeah, they are.
I really check this stuff out because, and like I said, if you're interested in this, the best way to get a hold of him is those links down in the description below. So, again, Josh, I've had an amazing time hanging out with you, talking about the upcoming projects you're working on. But please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you.
Absolutely.
Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.